In your day-to-day life, the human brain is constructing for you a particular form of reality. You're not aware of this, and it's giving you a sense of a self, an identity, a person that you are. It's constructing what you see, the things that matter for your personal survival, for your day-to-day concerns. And so we live as human beings in this kind of constructed world that we all agree on is reality, a social created world. But it's not actually the real world. My relationship to kind of mystical and spiritual experiences. I'm kind of a materialist. I'm kind of an earthy person. I sort of believe things that actually I've experienced that are in my body that I know very deeply. But that does not by any means discount spiritual and mystical experiences, because they can be very physical. They can be very embodied. They can be something you personally experience on a deep level. And so when I was in my early 20s and in my late teens, when I was in college, I've told this before, I took a lot of drugs. I took LSD. My favorite one was peyote, which is basically they're called buttons that grow on cactuses in the Southwest and in Mexico. And they were part of indigenous tribes' spiritual practices. And they're these things that you take off all of these little fibers on them because they're poisonous. They can be very poisonous. And they're the most foul tasting thing you've ever can imagine. And you have to cut them up into small pieces and put it like in a blender with like a shake or with like peanut butter, because the taste is so vile and you probably end up throwing it up. But the trips, the journeys that you went on, I'll never forget them. They were so wonderful, so magical. They had a deep impact on me. And the impact on me is the following. It's something that Aldous Huxley describes in The Doors of Perception. And I'm sorry, I should have recommended that as one of my 5 books, Aldous Huxley's Doors of Perception. But the thing is, what you don't realize is that in your day-to-day life, the human brain, and that's something I'm talking a lot about in my new book, The Sublime, the human brain is constructing for you a particular form of reality, right? You're not aware of this. And it's giving you a sense of a self, an identity, a person that you are. It's constructing what you see. It's sort of limiting what you're thinking about, the things that matter for your personal survival, for your day-to-day concerns. And so we live as human beings in this kind of constructed world that we all agree on is reality, a social created world. But it's not actually the real world. I remember my drug trips. Suddenly, I was seeing things without all those filters, without all that nonsense that the brain is constructing for you, that the social world is constructing for you, the world as it actually is. Now we know neurologically this is how these kind of drugs operate. It kind of bypasses the filtering mechanism of the brain. And so those early experiences when I was in my early 20s of actually seeing the world as it is, and how beautiful it is, and how intense it is, and how colors are more vibrant than we normally realize, and how the world is infinitely more awesome and interesting, and how every little detail in insects and plants, I'll never forget that it had a huge impact on me. And now when I meditate, all of that comes back to me, because the form of meditation I do is to kind of get you out of all of those constructions, all of those fake things, all of those illusions that the brain constructs, and to actually see the world as it is. So I very, very, very much believe in those kind of experiences. And then about 7.5 years ago when I had my stroke, I didn't have a near-death experiences, but I had some very strange thoughts that came to me. Visions of what it was like after I had died and the world going on. And Anna, my wife, and my mother, I was actually looking down at my own funeral and how things were going to be okay after I was gone. And sort of images like that that came up to me in the moment that I was dying, and the feeling inside of my body of my bones kind of dissolving and emptying out, and death was kind of filling me up. You can't explain that verbally. And in fact, it's the last chapter I just wrote in my Sublime book. You can't explain that verbally about how it feels. But it was definitely something, there's another world out there that we can't quite access, that people in near-death experiences access. And I describe that in detail in the last chapter of my book. But I went through that personally on a very strange level when I had my stroke. I could go on and on. I've had many other kind of experiences like that, particularly in relation to my meditation practices, moments where I feel like, this is what the world is like. This is what people are like. This is what's really going on in the world. These kind of flashes have been very meaningful to me, and they kind of make life worth living. My book that will be out in October is all about what I'm trying to describe here. 12 chapters, each of different kinds of experiences like that in different realms, in relation to animals, in relation to ancient history, in relation to biology and how we evolved, to the cosmos, to childhood, etc. I'll answer the question much better in 400 pages of my new book, but that's sort of to give you an idea.